Okay, joining us now after his lecture to Warwick University is Sir Vince Cable. First things first, Sir Vince, I know you visited Warwick University quite a few times over the years. Do you enjoy coming to Warwick?
Yes, it's one of Britain's top universities these days. There's obviously, as we saw tonight, a lot of student engagement, a lot of intellectual curiosity. The subjects which interest me, like economics, are taught at a very high level here, and it's physically a kind of lovely campus.
You were talking about Brexit. On Brexit, do you think the Lib Dems are being obstructive or constructive?
I think we're being constructive. We're not in a position to be obstructive because we don't have large numbers of MPs who can fundamentally change legislation. Though we're happy to work with Labour and Conservative people who are like-minded. But no, we're making a strong argument. We're the only political party who's arguing that we should be giving the British public the choice of ploughing on or having an exit from Brexit. We're an unashamedly pro-Remain party. I don't regard that as obstructive.
In recent days, I know you've been involved in a feud with David Davis regarding one of your MEPs, Catherine Bearder. Would you mind just explaining what has kind of happened there? I think you've sent a letter to David Davis as well.
Yes, I wouldn't describe it as a feud. I actually get on perfectly well with David Davis. He's in many ways quite a likeable character with a very good record on civil liberties that I applaud. But essentially what happened was that a lot of the European MEPs voted on a motion in the European Parliament which was questioning some of the things that the British government was arguing for in its negotiations. I mean, I thought it was an utterly bizarre letter. And indeed, I believe my Labour opposite number has replied in equally trenchant terms to David Davis, saying that actually you've got it wrong, and if you really want to make progress in these negotiations, you are going to have to be much more conciliatory on the rights of European nationals in the UK, and by extension British nationals in Europe, and on Ireland, and they're going to have to be more flexible about money. I mean, I'm not arguing they should pay X billion more, but frankly, the only way they're going to get a settlement is if they do show some flexibility on that issue.
You said then that you are unashamedly pro-European. Are Leave voters and Eurosceptics welcome in the Liberal Democrats?
Well, we have some. We have a couple of MPs who are not part of the consensus, though they do go along with the basic policy. They had Leave constituencies. No, everybody's welcome in the Liberal Democrats, providing they subscribe to our basic values. And it is possible to have a liberal view about Europe, which is different from mine. I mean, there are some people who believe that by leaving the European Union, there's a greater freedom to pursue liberal economic policies. I think that's a little fantastical, but I respect people who argue that case.
You famously said in Prime Minister's Questions that Gordon Brown had transformed from Stalin to Mr Bean. Since the election, what has Theresa May transformed from and into, would you say?
Well, I don't have a simple one-liner on that, but I mean, that position is very weak politically. She's propped up by, basically by the fact that the people who would otherwise want her job are divided with each other. I don't think they want the responsibility at this very tricky stage. I mean, I worked with her in government, and she's got some positive qualities, and I don't want to sort of rubbish her as an individual, but she handled the general election campaign very badly. I mean, she had a weak opponent and somehow managed to lose ground to him. She's messed up a whole lot of different things. He's struggling to assert her authority. So actually, by comparison, Gordon Brown was a very strong and effective Prime Minister.
Final few things. Obviously, Lib Dem conference was recently. What do the Liberal Democrats have now to offer students regarding housing and also regarding university fees?
Well, I've just initiated a review of our whole approach to the financing of higher education. I mean, one of the things we're immediately campaigning for is the full restoration of student grants, which actually really do matter for students from low-income backgrounds. The Conservatives got rid of them. We believe they should be reinstated. we're not proposing to scrap the whole system of tuition fees. No, I don't think even the Labour Party believes that's possible, because you could have some other way of raising money. But I do want to look at alternative models, because I do think there is genuine anxiety around issues of debt and interest rates, so I'm reviewing that. But the immediate priority is to restore student grants for maintenance. On housing, frankly, any government is going to have to make itself unpopular by building lots more houses, but not just private houses through developers, but social housing at affordable rents. Councils should have much greater freedom to borrow, to build. We need a mixture, social housing, private rented, shared accommodation, private ownership. Shouldn't be dogmatic. What we do need to do is to have a much bigger housing supply to drive down the cost of housing.
When you were in government, you launched, I think it was in 2011, the Red Tape Challenge. What are your thoughts on this in hindsight? Would you have gone further? Would you have mitigated it slightly?
Well, I'd spent much of my time in government fighting some of the sillier ideas from the Conservative side on regulations that they wanted to scrap, which actually performed an important social function. You do need safety standards, you do need health standards, you do need environmental controls, of course. But what I think the Red Tape Challenge did was that there were a lot of silly regulations. I mean, things that have accumulated over decades that are no longer used, that have created a great deal of unnecessary red tape. Well, you have to strike a balance between the concerns of customers, workers, the environment on the one hand, and small business, which often finds it very difficult to function because of regulatory complexities. And getting rid of some of the regulatory complexities is a good aim of policy.
And very lastly, I know when you became Lib Dem leader, you were concerned about your ballroom dancing career. Have you still had time to keep that up since you've been the leader of the Lib Dems?
Well, I've had several lessons, but I'm not keeping it up on a regular weekly basis, which is what I used to do. I was being prepared for the Pro-Am tournament in Blackpool in November, but I'm afraid the practice is slipping so badly. I have a horrible feeling I'm not going to make it.
Fair enough. Vince Cable, thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you.